Hi, Darren.
Hello, Greg. We meet again.
We do another fireside chat, and this time we're going to talk about something a little different.
Yes, we are. So I think our last few fireside chats, well, I've enjoyed them. They've been very heavy on the technical side, which makes sense because we've had a lot of exciting releases and exciting new features over the past few releases, and it's always good and exciting to talk about those. But one thing we haven't really done is taken a step back and talked about Ravenblack as a company and what drives us and really like the what value do we provide not only to our customers but also to what our customers are trying to do. So we're going to try to do that in this fireside chat.
That's excellent, and that's obviously very important. And we are technical guys, but all of our technology is aimed at business value. So let's talk about it.
So let's take a step even further back because one thing you and I have spent some time working on is really creating our values. And both you and I are very value-driven people. And the values that we define really outline and determine all the work that we do. So let's talk about, first of all, our purpose. So our purpose at Ravenblack, we are here to accelerate and safeguard the journey of our customers to the tailored ECM system that they need, but also the one that they want. And accelerate here is an interesting word. I think it kind of makes sense and maybe self-explanatory because we want to accelerate the system, accelerate users performing their tasks. But safeguard is an interesting choice of word as well.
Yeah, and obviously accelerate ultimately means lowering cost as well. But safeguard, it gets overlooked, and here we can literally mean safeguarding your system in terms of making sure your applications are secure, but also looking at the robustness of your applications, reducing technical debt through robustness improvement, and generally around performance, which relates to the overall safety and your system and keeping it up and keeping it working properly at all times.
Right. All important things, and really we have not met a single customer who hasn't needed that or wanted that.
Yeah.
So the way we translate our purpose into our mission is, first and foremost, we are here to support the individuals, the people, the teams who are responsible for ensuring content server delivers meaningful value. And the way we've seen time over time, the customers who are successful deliver that value in content server. They've done it by meeting the needs of all the users. And I mean all the users, not just parts of the organization, reducing cost for the business, and equally important, helping the business deliver on strategic goals.
That all makes good sense.
Which, take that down one step lower, how do we help you succeed? And we have a bit of an advantage here, I think. We are the original creator of WebReports. We've worked with hundreds of customers over 20 plus years to achieve ECM goals. And again, going back to our values, it's always been important to you and I to work closely with customers, before they purchase, afterwards, to make sure that they are successful. And we've seen a lot of customers achieve success with very interesting and unique challenges and requirements. And really, that makes us uniquely positioned to be the best partner in achieving ECM goals for the customers we haven't met yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't like to boast, Darren, but I believe I created the first ever web report. So that's on my resume.
I think that's a badge of honor. But that's an interesting point, and that's a great segue because you created the first web report. So when you created web reports, you were doing a lot of the same work that all of our customers are doing now, especially when they start their ECM journey. You were doing a lot of the same work. And out of the work that you were doing, you saw a need, and you filled that need with what was to become web reports, right?
Absolutely.
So why? And what in that time happened that you created web reports And how did you see that over time become successful because it was delivering value to the content server work that you were doing, but also the customers we were then providing web reports to?
Yeah, it's definitely true. I was a customer of OpenText and doing work with things like workflows and forums and live reports and so on. And so web reports definitely grew out of something I'd identified as a useful enhancement. I have to say that over the years, no matter how much I've worked with web reports, I'm still impressed and amazed with all of the great things our customers have created. And as we'll talk about a little bit, some of that success growing organically over the years is why we've built the products we have, because Web Reports has really grown into something much bigger. And in this diagram, we illustrate, and you can look at it in more detail through our slides, but Web Reports really touches on every kind of configuration or customization you can do on Content Server today. And that it even includes building completely unique applications that connect with Content Server, as we've done. And even if you're building OScript modules, Web Reports can be a part of that, as we've seen with things like records management. So it's definitely grown and grown since we originally built it. But I've had being blessed to work with a lot of different customers and partners and see all of the things they've done. And that's really informed what we're doing today, the next generation of Web Reports tools.
Yeah. And at the time, when Web Reports was being created, like looking at this wheel, some of these technologies were meant to be used in isolation, possibly. Web Reports has grown to basically be this kind of technological glue that brings all the different parts of the content server tech stack together to be used together and provide capability that wasn't there if you were to use any one of these different pieces of the tech stack individually. And we've seen a lot of customers achieve success over the years, and we can see here Web Reports creating a whole new world of opportunity for content server, which kind of brings us to today, right? So the business challenges that some of our customers who've been using Web Reports or content server, for a long time, they have possibly different challenges today than they did when they were just starting their ECM journey, where Web Reports fits a very big gap for them.
Indeed.
So that being said, let's talk about the business benefits that we are providing as part of that evolutionary journey, so to speak, for these customers. And I think first and foremost is probably the one that most people want to hear, which is reduced cost of development and support.
Yeah, it's easy to underestimate that, but if you actually extrapolate the amount of time you spend on a project and how many developers you have and how much time they spend building things, anything that reduces the cost or the time and the effort to do that, as I believe we do dramatically, has a huge cost benefit. Support is, in fact, even more so, given the tools we provide to really make it easier to find, identify this stuff, and to understand how it works. So I believe we provide, significant benefits in terms of reducing cost and increasing the speed of development, which is also important.
Right, which blends perfectly into the next one, which is reducing the ramp-up time for new developers.
Yeah, and that's something through creating these tools and a modern style of development environment. When you're bringing on new developers, it's something that they will be familiar with, as opposed to the content server interface, which, nice though it is 20-something years old, maybe older. And I like to think what we do, besides providing an environment that will look like most other environments developers have worked with, but it's bolted into content server in a way that you can access all of the features that are hidden all over the system in the admin pages, tabs for objects, all of that brought together in this modern interface. So this is something that can really help getting new developers on board.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm honest, Wish was there when I was ramping up on content server development.
Indeed.
Now, again, going back to our core values, we provide increased robustness, security, and performance of the applications that have been developed. And one of the ways we achieve that is through auditing and analyzing.
Yeah, and we have built-in features to do that. A lot of our tools are, aid a person working on the system to get the information they want, to have access to the features they want as easily as possible. But in addition to that, we have some automated features, not quite real AI, but a form of AI in that they crawl through and look at applications and identify issues and recommendations. And this is where we're trying to take our expertise, which is, as we said, quite long and deep, and to build it into our tools so that customers and partners can use that expertise automatically through our tools.
So in a way, we've kind of baked in a virtual Greg and a virtual Darren that's there helping you along the way.
Yeah, because we don't scale that well.
Not yet, anyways. Yeah, this fourth point is just a real pain for a lot of people, and that's just knowledge being lost and thrown out the window by personnel changes or otherwise. I mean, I've gone back and looked at code that I've written, and just it could have been written by somebody else for how much of it I remember.
Yeah. And obviously, there's some things in terms of people documenting their own code, things like that, that we can only do so much to recreate, but we've made it much, much easier to add and build documentation, including an automatic ability to actually go through all the objects and put them into a document. But additionally, just the whole framework allows, when you're looking at an application that you may or may not remember, it can organize out of that chaos. It can organize it into something that shows how the application works and makes it vastly easier, almost exponentially easier to understand an existing application where you might have hundreds of web reports, or even if you only have 10 web reports, sprinkled around in different folders and with different functions and all interconnected in ways that you really don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times without tools like this, you're kind of looking for loose threads somewhere and then trying to work backwards. We're kind of giving you the advantage of starting at the top and then working
Finding the
way.
loose thread.
That's right. This one is something I'm excited about, and this is why we talk a lot about the technical in our fireside chats, and that's the improved adoption through modern development environment.
Yeah, and it kind of connects up with the reduced ramp up time, but it also means when you're hiring developers or bringing in developers and trying to encourage them to work in what is often a new environment, that you'll get less resistance and potentially less loss of people wanting to move out of an area where they feel like the working environment is old-fashioned and difficult to work with. So it's, hand in glove with the reduced ramp-up time, I guess, part of the same effect.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good model too, or a good demonstration of what we've built is using modern, web UI frameworks and doing so successfully within content server. So it serves as a good model for what could be done in content server.
Absolutely.
Increase in development and support access for cloud installations. This is an area, again, where you and I have been spending some time thinking, because that in itself brings about a whole bunch of new challenges that just didn't exist before.
Yeah, and I guess the easiest way to describe this, that there's a variety of features that allow you to do things from the browser that previously would have needed system level access. And that's something that's ever increasing. We just recently had some functionality around that, but that's an underlying theme through everything we build to really make it easier to work on cloud installations.
which also may come hand in hand. I think it is linked with our final point, which is reduced software upgrade time, which is something, again, we've consulted with many people on, trying to find that balance of, the prep work before an upgrade, the cleanup work after an upgrade, and how to really be strategic with upgrades. And of course, the ultimate goal is reducing that upgrade time as best as possible.
Yeah, and we've been told probably we should lead with this because for some customers and certainly partners, this is huge. Trying to get customers to move from an older version of Content Server to a newer version, and if they have dozens of applications built on there, they don't know exactly where they are, how they work, how they might impact the upgrade. Purely the unknown requires a lot of effort and work. But beyond that, beyond the fact that our tool helps you understand the system you're upgrading, our audits will also look for issues that you might have with your web reports. Web reports was always supposed to make it easier to upgrade, but it very much depends on how it was developed and what kind of things have organically crept in that maybe make it a little bit less robust. So we help looking at those things up front. We help fixing those things. We help after an upgrade, identifying any problems that might have crept in and fixing them. So all of those actions applied to a software upgrade have a significant benefit, and I don't think that can be overestimated.
No, absolutely not. And we, to this day, have a lot of successful customers who've built success into Content Server using web reports. And of course, reading through these, we're advocating and trying to promote maybe the next generation, or at least continued success with building on top of existing web reports applications or even new ones, but also making use of new technologies in Content Server over the years, which kind of brings us into why we care so much. So, Greg, when we look at all the different types of benefits that we can provide as Ravenblack, we can speak to each of these with confidence and with experience because we've worked with a lot of customers hand in hand to solve some of these challenges. And without fail, one of the things that I've seen is that any customer of Content Server follows a typical journey where they start with that initial investment of Content Server. They're working towards getting that 80-20 split of getting it 80% functional while still leaving some of the requirements left to be built. And then kind of getting into that complete phase where it's functionally complete, but customers are looking at how to optimize that system and reduce costs, which again, driving that point time over time, these are the first principles of ECM value, right? Is where can we decrease costs and where can we increase value? And one of the things that you and I always do with our customers when we're coaching them and walking through their requirements is, regardless of where they are in that ECM journey, and frankly, at every part of that ECM journey, they can ask themselves these three questions, right? So the first one is, how can you reduce costs now? Typically, this is, easily found in making sure tasks, are functionally complete. Users can actually do what they need to do in the system and don't need to work around them, or finding ways to reduce human effort of tasks, especially repetitive ones, or adding in some kind of automation. But the second question we ask is, where can you add new business value, right? So what are the requirements that's going to continue to increase value, not only user satisfaction, but also add more functionality and value to the system?
Yeah, and I think the third box is one that I think often gets overlooked because typically when we're trying to reduce costs while building a lot of business value, our emphasis is on faster and cheaper, and that's something we can definitely help with. But it's also important not just to build faster, but to build better. And I think a lot of customers are realizing this where they have applications and things that have been built sometimes a decade ago. That you have technical debt that grows. And if the application isn't fully robust and well documented, well presented, understandable, well put together, best practices, all of those things, you grow technical debt. So every increment or every fix becomes technical debt, and there's a cost to that and a risk to that as well. And the cost, just to provide some real numbers here, these are numbers I believe we got from an open text study, and they're from medium to large size companies. But this is the ownership costs that you might see typically, with things like upgrades and the support and administration. Some of these might be conservative even, but even looking at the lowest numbers there and even providing a modest improvement, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars of savings. And if you add to that the cost of new projects and developing functionality on a system in the first place, and the type of cost reduction you get out of even something like a 20% improvement, you're getting into the hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings. And I think that can easily be underestimated, and we're really focusing our attention on reducing these numbers along with some of the human benefits that we've talked about in our slides.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably a great place for us to kind of summarize the things that we've been talking about, right? And, we provide, the ability to add value and reduce costs in a lot of different ways for a lot of different types of people within the organization. So when I typically think about how we help our customers achieve success, I kind of think about it in two streams. So one is on the human, the employee side, right? So helping ensure users can do what they need to do, but as efficiently as possible and, in the least amount of time. And definitely hard tools, greatly help, again, those responsible for content server developers, administrators, and so on. And, like the technical benefits that follow that. So like you just mentioned, the reduced technical debt. There's a lot of different ways that we can make sure the system is running properly, smoothly, with less bloats and, less worry or risk about security and stuff. And at the end of the day, these are all the things that on their own are tiny successes, but they all run and lead up to like that greater success, which is the cost savings, which we know each of our customers are looking for.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up.
I think so, yeah. And thank you for your time, Greg. This was really good. I liked having a little bit of a different fireside chat today, and I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, look forward to talking to everyone about some of our new features in the future. All right, bye, Darren.
All right, take care, Greg.